Welcome everyone, my name is Ilya from Polycaro BMW. I'm joined here with sales executive Lucas, and we are super thrilled to have you for yet another live stream, this time talking about the all-new BMW M3 competition. Just as a little bit of housekeeping, just want to make sure that we're keeping safe. Little note to say that the showroom is closed. Lucas and I will be maintaining a 6 feet distance, and of course everyone crew related is separated and masked as well. So with that out of the way, Lucas, here we are, another one, right?
Finally, another one.
I know.
Yeah.
So to start off, I think you and I were one of the first actually lucky enough to drive the all-new M3 competition, this exact unit, if I'm not mistaken, right when it came out. Why don't we start with first impressions? What were your thoughts?
Obviously, we always bring our attention to the grille. We especially remember last time when we did the 4 Series.
Absolutely.
And didn't run short on the M3 competition. This obviously has the grille, but my first impression of this car was how solid on the drive when I went out, the speed that it picks up, and of course the styling. I think those are the 3 key points that kind of caught my eye.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. How about you?
But same thing. You know, it's funny. There was so much news and fanfare around the new series of M3 when we first heard about it. And I know when we saw, to your point, the new 4 Series, you know, the non-M car coming in, the grille was obviously one of the most sort of controversial pieces of design news. But I think BMW made a statement. In my mind, it's bold, it's got a road presence, and I think specifically in M form, it looks fantastic. I don't know if you want to take the viewers through a little bit of the details, because I know we're looking at sort of an M specific, it's a horizontal slack grille.
Yes, exactly, correct? The horizontal slack grille that comes only
Yeah.
in the M3 competition and the M4 competition. As you bring our attention down lower, closer to the front of the vehicle, some of the things that we did take consideration, obviously the grille, how big it is. But to be honest with you, I think BMW never fell short on design.
Absolutely.
Especially the exterior design. I think that is something that always turns heads and brings attention, and that's what people like about it, right?
100%. I mean, I think it's you know, when you make the decision to drive an M car, it really is a personal choice. You obviously want, you know, the benchmark in performance as well as an aesthetic style. What I particularly love about this unit, I mean, we're looking at a very well-spec'd M3 competition. This is a unique colorway. This is Brooklyn Gray, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, a few of the unique details here, it's, you know, really subtle but really beautiful
Yes.
design features that are also useful. One of the things we talked about is actual functional vents,
Yes.
Which is super exciting for me, and I can see it even from this angle that I'm standing at. I can see right down,
Yep.
But if you want to walk the audience through.
So as you can see, obviously this car comes with the carbon fiber exterior package. Bring down closer underneath the grille, you see 2 big holes right in front of the intercoolers, and that is obviously to make sure the car gets cooled down when it's heated up on a fast drive. And then right beside it, close to the wheel, there's a open hole, which is another vent. Again, it's a real vent. A lot of new fast cars nowadays in general, we're not getting a lot of these real vents. We're getting a lot of, we call it fake vents, which is for styling, which is still nice, right? But at the end of the day, you want something functional. And for aerodynamic purposes, BMW has made this actually functional, so air can pass through the wheels and all the way to the side of the body without slowing down the vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, and again, with BMW, such an iconic model within the BMW lineup, and I mean, M cars, specifically the M3, just such an iconic history too, right? As we go down the lineage, I mean, in terms of engine innovation, in terms of balance, I mean, most BMWs or all BMWs, you know, a near 50-50 perfect weight distribution. We even see that in the silhouette. Like, I'm looking at the front wheels here, and they're so, you know, so beautifully pushed to the front of the car.
Yeah.
And that's something, to, you know, your point, we were talking about the driving experience.
Yes.
For me, there was such perfect turn-in. You know, this is a plus 500 horsepower unit, and, you know, right off the bat, immediate confidence on the road. You know, brand new tires. We were driving in cooler conditions, and we obviously were not pushing it, you know, pushing it hard whatsoever as we were on an open road. But even with that, you know, it's just this most beautiful balance of performance and luxury. And I think you brought up a really interesting piece, was when you dial it in, you know, it also becomes a really comfortable daily driver as
Absolutely. Well. You brought up a good point about the tires and the rims. Number one, obviously, these forged rims are a unique design to the M3. If I bring our closer attention to it, you can see that these wheels are specifically designed for these cars in terms of aggressiveness, you know, the styling. And then if you pay a little bit more closer attention, you'll see that the 19-inch tires and rims are at the front, whereas at the back, it's slightly bigger at 20 inches. And this is mainly for the design of drivability, comfort level, daily driving, as well as performance. When I first looked at the vehicle, the front looked a little bit weird because I was like, why are the tires a little bit bigger?
Right.
But when I actually got behind the wheel and drive it, then I finally understand that, you know, there's a reason to it. And, you know, to point you to the right direction, to give you a comfortable ride. And everyday driving, and then when you turn of a button, it'll bring you to the track, and
Right.
you know, you feel it. That's what we
Absolutely.
want.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit when we go into the interior, because when you say the push of a button, I mean, you mean literally at the push of the M button,
Absolutely.
which is still, for me, one of my favorite features. I think it's just such an interesting approach of getting track ready just, you know, in a moment's notice. You know, as we go through as well, I'm noticing little bits of subtle carbon, a little bit more exposed carbon. So maybe you want to talk the audience through what this specific unit is actually equipped with. 'Cause
Right,
it's
so
pretty
this
special.
one we have here obviously is the Brooklyn Gray M3 competition with the carbon fiber exterior package. Specifically on this model, it does not have the carbon fiber roof, but on the M3 and the M4, we're actually getting the carbon fiber roof that can be standard
Right.
on these vehicles to save weight, of course, but obviously give it a stylish look.
Yeah.
Bring our attention all the way to the end, you even see the tail on the spoiler. It's also carbon fiber with a little bit of a design difference compared to the other vehicles, as for aerodynamic purposes, of course. And then if Ilya would step into the vehicle,
Oh, gladly.
bring down to our diffuser, obviously make it of carbon fiber, and guess what, guys? Real vents. I mean, real vents and real exhaust. Quad exhaust, real exhaust, not fake, not styling only, but they're functional as well. Ilya, if you want to start it up, let's give it a quick rev.
Absolutely.
Wow. Are you comfortable in that seat?
I'm immensely comfortable, and actually, Lucas, I will leave you the space here to take our audience through this incredible interior, with one of my favorite features, absolutely, which is the sport bucket seats.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I step into the vehicle, I want to show you a couple of things. These bucket seats are called carbon fiber bucket seats. They're actually an upgrade that's not for in every vehicle. So this carbon fiber seat, bucket seats, it actually saves weight. It's a $7,000, $8,000 upgrade, but it's well worth it. The headrest is removable, and as I step in, you see that it's hugging me. Let me just close the door here. It hugs me pretty well. And this is for everyday driving. I think it's still comfortable. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is that carbon fiber seats are not usually adjustable, especially in a lot of race cars, again, for weight distribution and also weight savings. But for this one specifically, you're able to move forward, backward, up and down, you know, and you can remove the headrest because you want to have the helmet to be more comfortable when you're on the track. So those are the two things that I think is very important when you're looking at the seat and packaging it up. And then obviously our beautiful interior, carbon fiber interior. We got the new infotainment system at iDrive 7, carbon fiber paddle shifters, carbon fiber steering wheel, and guess what? The heated steering wheel button is actually on the steering wheel, not somewhere that not to be found in a lot of cars that are designed nowadays. And one more thing, Ilya, I wanted to tell you is a remote engine start. It comes in this vehicle.
Very excited about that one.
European cars don't usually come remote engine start, but guess what? We're here, we have one. It's a performance car, and it's a remote engine start.
No, for sure. I mean, it's again. So what you bring up for what is this effectively a race car for the road, incredibly comfortable seats. If I'm not mistaken, the bolsters can actually inflate as well around the driver.
Yeah,
right?
it's actually very comfortable now that I'm sitting in it and adjusting it. And there's different modes that you can put in. Putting it in sport mode, you would feel that it's hugging you more. And then when you're not putting in the sport mode into comfort everyday mode, which is what I was talking about, the M1 and the M2 button, bring our focus to the steering wheel, of course. The press of a button, depending on how you set it. So let's say if I set it to M1 at comfort, I can just press this twice in M2, and it'll bring it in an instant to a sport mode. Bolsters are, tighter. Everything that you feel is tighter. And of course, the engine is going to rev a little bit higher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's incredible how configurable it is, and yet also how intuitive the interior. Like that's the part that surprised me, is for what is, a driver's car, and has always been known to be, an aggressive driver's car. You have all of your luxury and your comfort features just sort of right at your fingertips. But again, at a moment's notice, you click that button, and you're right there. You're right on track, and you're able to perform with the best of them. Which
The car is designed to go, and I think the BMW has done a good job in making that statement come true.
Yeah.
Again, me talking about it and me sitting in it, showing you it over video, I think that's not something that can justify how great this car is. You need to come in and drive this car in order to really experience what BMW is about, right?
Absolutely. I mean, again, this is the thing, you and I have had multiple conversations about the M3 and the M4 and the competition, and, it is a tactile experience. It's something that, you know, when you get behind the wheel and you understand just how direct and how perfect that level of handling and performance is, it really gives you a whole new appreciation of what this next level of BMW performance really is. Of course, you know, there's no denying we are in COVID times, which is, you know, not obviously the easiest to come in and test drive, but you can of course let us know in terms of the Polycare Group and Polycare BMW. There are a handful of options in terms of, you know, safely booking a test drive, speaking to a sales executive, whether it be, you know, through the phone, online. If you'd like to give the viewers a little bit more of an idea, that'd be great.
Absolutely. And in terms of the Polycare Access is one of our biggest projects this year. Because of COVID, we were able to launch this program a lot sooner than what we wanted to before. Having a truck deliver the vehicle to, enclosed truck deliver a vehicle to your house, and when the truck arrives and when it leaves or whatever it's doing, it's going to give you a constant update on your cell phone in terms of text message or email, whatever you prefer. And in terms of test driving the vehicle, you can now come in of a touch of a button, go online, book an appointment. You don't want to speak to a sales representative. You just want to come in, you want to test drive, and then you want to take your time and think about it after. Those all can be done through our website, and as well from Instagram and Facebook as well. That will lead you back to the link on the booking.
For sure, and fully sanitized vehicles throughout, right?
Absolutely.
If you're picking something up, we make sure that our team takes care of any of the high touch and even not so high touch areas. I know when I did the experience myself, when we were told we had access to the car, it was a seamless experience. We were given, you know, the full Polycare Access experience, and it is quite lovely in terms of being able to safely come in and you know, experience the BMW brand, and also, you know, just get a little bit more of you know, security in terms of just your daily happenings. So. With that said, we're obviously standing back at the front. So Lucas, I know you're excited to open the hood and show the audience what's going on here.
Yeah. So underneath, as you can open the hood, we have our inline 6-cylinder S58 double turbo engine, twin turbo engine, both of them are twin scroll. I think that this vehicle is going to be something that is not going to fall short in terms of speed, in terms of dynamics of driving, and in terms of performance. This vehicle specifically on this engine, it gives you a 503 horsepower output, and obviously 600 something Newton meters of torque. I think that's over 500.
Over 5.
Yeah, that's a lot, right?
A considerable amount of torque for sure.
And I think, you know, being the same engine as the X3M, X4M, this one, the M4, this engine has a lot of history to it, right?
Absolutely.
The turbo engine, I think that's something that BMW has transitioned from this previous predecessor, the V8 on the
E-Series. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
on the E-Series. And I think that, you know, the rev being so high on the red line,
right.
BMW has actually made this as close to a V8 feel as it can be. And I think that's something that I know BMW drivers are looking for when they buy a car.
Right, and we talked about this earlier in terms of forced induction and turbocharging, and I mean, BMW is obviously a pioneer in that space, and they have been since, you know, F1 days. One thing that's incredible to me about this is, well, one, I'm you know, it's funny, I haven't actually opened the hood yet, so I'm amazed at how well the space is used under the bonnet. We see the motor pushed right back, and we see, you know, every detail possible that really is a showcase of balance.
Absolutely.
On top of that, I think the interesting thing is, it completely slipped my mind when we went on our test drives, because obviously I was, you know, by myself. I completely forgot it was a turbo. It truly has no turbo lag, which, you know, is an incredible feat. I know turbocharging technology is getting better and better, but this is really outstanding in that space.
Absolutely, and as you were mentioning earlier, talking about the balance of the vehicle, you notice that the space that is used in between the engine, there's no battery, and the battery is actually put inside the trunk, as these cars do not have a spare tire.
Right.
Either it's a run flat or an inflator kit.
Right.
The battery is at the back for obviously weight distribution. BMW brings its attention as close as possible to the center of gravity to be in the middle of the car, to our 50-50 balance, as you again mentioned earlier today. I think those things, BMW M cars specifically, is something that any driver, when you're first thinking of M, is the first thing you think of. You know, the speed, the driving dynamics, the balance, and obviously BMW, the logo itself.
Of course, of course. Now, it wouldn't obviously be a live stream event if we didn't address the elephant in the room, which I know everyone has been talking about: manual transmissions in BMW vehicles. Can you get us a little bit of an update of what's going on with the M3?
Yes, so at previous garage tour, if audience of you have been watching, we actually talked about the manual transmission in the M3 and the M4. As for the M3 and M4 competition, it'll come with a ZF 8-speed transmission. The manual transmission is a 6-speed, okay? So you will be able to get that in North America as long as you go for the M3 and M4 Coupe non-competition model. Once you jump into the competition, you have two choices. You either go with the regular ZF 8-speed transmission, rear-wheel drive, or you can go later on in the year, in 2022 model, it will be only an all-wheel drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that ZF transmission, I mean, it is so perfectly paired to this motor. It's incredibly responsive. It's also incredibly smooth. You mentioned BMW M cars of the past, and I know for some purists, you know, that aggressive shift change is something they look forward to, and you absolutely can set the car up to perform that way. But what was amazing is when we had it sort of in the more relaxed modes, the shifts were seamless. It wasn't overtly aggressive on the road. It was linear, smooth. It was beautiful. You know, I think that this transmission, whether you go for a manual, which I would be inclined to do as a purist, so to speak, but this one specifically may change my mind because it is that good.
I think so. You're talking about the transmission back in the day. Previous generation for M3 and M4, or a lot of the M cars, we used to call it we used to use the dual clutch transmission.
Right, the DCTs.
A lot of reviews has given us back some feedback saying that, you know, when your transmission is jumping from first, second, or third gear, it gives a little bit of a jerk, a jump, right? It's almost like somebody's pushing you.
Right.
But I think that feeling is transitioning into an everyday vehicle. It becomes a little bit harder for a lot of our drivers. So when BMW was designing this car, one of the few things that they thought about was everyday driving. And this car can be driven every day. And with this transmission, the way it's designed, how you can press of a button and change from one to the other, and I think that BMW nailed it.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, you know, we were talking about this earlier, and you said something which is, you know, we're getting into the age now where this can be your weekend car, but it can also be your daily driver from Monday to Friday. And even in inclement weather, it handles so well. I mean, the way that the power is put down, the confidence in the way the transmission and the drivetrain works is really something spectacular. So, well, Lucas, obviously you and I can talk about this, you know, all day long, and you and I have known to do so. So we can close the hood. What we'll do is, we know we're getting some questions, of course, from our live audience. As those are trickling in, I'm looking over, obviously, past our crew to get a few of the questions in right now. And it looks like one is coming in, actually, and it's specifically about the colorway of the new BMW M cars. So, as you mentioned, this is Brooklyn Gray. Now, is this a standard color for the M series, or is this what we'd call an individual color?
So BMW has an individual program called BMW Individual, where custom colors can be made for the buyer's specific need. In terms of this color, the Brooklyn Gray, it's a new color that came for the M3 and the M4, a very eye-catching color to say the least. With these pastel kind of gray color, there's a lot of variants, but this Brooklyn Gray really turns heads. I think that people, when they're looking for these cars, when they're buying these cars, the first thing they want to do, not just for the performance and everything, but when you're spending, you know, an X amount of dollar on a car that's this beautiful, you also want a little bit of, you know, some sort of attention.
Sure, of course.
Right? Like, it's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, not at all.
And with this color, yes, it's specific to the M3 and M4 right now. I think later on BMW will bring it to the other variants and other model. But in terms of BMW Individual, we have the color on this car, the wheels, and of course the seats. They're Silverstone merino leathers. So those are the few things that we customize and could do for our clients. And on top of that, to touch on the color, BMW M3 and M4, this new one, yellows, greens,
Isle of Man
blues,
green, right?
purples,
Yeah,
you name it, orange, you name it, we have it.
We've definitely seen some very unique builds come in, and unfortunately they've sold faster than we can, you know, take a look at them coming into the store. But there, like you said, there is, I believe, there, you know, in terms of interior colors, that's I think one of the biggest changes this year is, you know, the way that the colors, the two-tone, I mean, even when we go into the more colorful sort of the lime greens and the blues, they really stand out, but they're a design concept that's quite livable every day. Yeah. I know when we took out the M4, you know, I thought that this would be something that, you know, you might enjoy for a little bit, but then as you live in it, there's a brightness to it, a real air to it that's actually really exciting, and I think just really unique and speaks to what BMW
can do. Exactly. And our general manager actually went ahead and designed a certain car. This, for example, I think he made an M3 that it's in a BMW Individual lime rock gray with an orange interior. Right. So that just to show like what kind of customizing we can do, right? Like yellow interiors, blue interiors, red interiors is no longer common, you know, black or gray or beige. Right. There's opens to all kinds of concept and design. and the BMW individual truly individualizes this vehicle for yourself.
Right, so very customizable to the
Absolutely.
driver. I love it. We have another question coming in, actually, and it's regards to ordering, and in terms of, are there any more left, or are we at the point where we're having to take pre-orders now for the next generation, or next year, I should say?
Exactly. So for 2021 models, we're practically selling out already at this point. It's whatever left in Canada market. Right. Canada didn't get a lot of allocation, as you imagine, with the COVID. Yeah. There's a lot of different factors that we're dealing with as a manufacturer and as a dealership in general. I think it's been a tough year for everyone. In terms of the products right now, the M3 and the M4, we're left with not a whole lot. So people can pre-order a 2022 model. Again, remember what I said, 2022 model, when you come with the competition package, you will get an all-wheel drive. Right. Whereas you get the M3 and M4 Coupe, you get a manual transmission. So those variants, again, you have to pay attention to and see what is the best that fits your need, and talk to your sales representative at Polycarroll. Absolutely, thank you. And I'm looking past here as well as the screen that has our questions from the live stream. Another one is coming up about the individual program, saying, in terms of coming in, what's the process to actually build an individual car if somebody wanted to? So the first thing you have to do is obviously come in, test drive the vehicle, see what you like. We can show you the options. Our sales representative, any one of us, including myself, will sit down with you and go through each and every detail of the vehicle, from the color, the wheels, the trim options, the seats, right, even the roof, the exhaust, or spoiler, and then you can add on top of that accessories, right? Sure. Things that you don't think you can add, but you can. For an M3, you can put a crossbar, put bikes over top, all kinds of things you can do to customize this vehicle to yourself. And I think that process usually takes almost over 6 months. Right, so we're talking at that point, I mean, if that order is going straight to the factory and getting customized right to the driver. Yeah, we stop the process for that person individually, right? So let's say if you were to order an orange car, for let's say we're talking about an orange car, they would have to stop that production line specifically for this order. So whereas, they can be making black cars, white cars, gray cars, and all of a sudden they get an order for an orange car, they're gonna have to put an order in and stop the whole production line to make sure this car gets made on time for this specific client. Wow. Yeah. It's such an incredible process, and of course, I'm sure there's so much excitement about that build process as well. You get to go through the motions, you get to anticipate your car coming, and then that day when it arrives is just probably one of the most exciting things. Of course, right? The excitement of having it delivered to your house, having come off the truck and just watching it, exit from an enclosed trailer. I think that's something that BMW and obviously ourselves we have been doing great a job on. Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. I'm looking. It seems like the live stream questions are really coming in. I'm looking over at our producer to see if there's a few more coming in. I think here we go. One is about the all-wheel drive system. Specifically, you mentioned, it says here, is it customizable to the front and rear, and you adjust where the power is being placed? So in the previous models, in the M5 and the M8, some of our vehicles that come in all-wheel drive and also rear-wheel drive. Now again, press of a button in the infotainment system on your iDrive 7, you're able to transfer the power from 4 wheels to 2 wheels. Right. Again, depending on where you are when you're on the track. Remember earlier we talked about there was a drift mode. Yes, right? Put it on the rear wheel drive, put it on a drift mode, and you're spinning the car, and it calculates your star grade, your points, right? So it see how long you've been course, of course. It scores, yes, and how long you have been drifting for. So that becomes maybe like a bunch of your buddies have M3s and M4s, compare stats, right? Yeah. That's something that's pretty cool that BMW thought of when they were designing this car. And those track-specific features are really interesting too, because it really does put you in a place where you're in full control and you're maximizing your potential with the vehicle, which I find so incredible. Absolutely. Again, we bring it back to everyday driving. When you put on a rear-wheel drive, you want to be on the track, or you want to just have a little bit of fun, have the tail come out a little bit. But when you want it to be an all-wheel drive in a snow condition or in a little bit colder weather condition that you want the tires to have better traction, right. I think you just by pressing of a button, that BMW is so smart when they made this car. Super intuitive. It goes a long way. No, it really does. And when you actually drive and you experience it, it speaks volumes for sure. Yeah. Looking over at our producer, the questions are really coming in here.
Does the carbon fiber roof come standard?
Oh,
that's a good question. That's a great question. Carbon fiber roof can come standard as long as the sunroof is actually an option, surprisingly. So you can, depending on what you want, weight savings, or do you want gravity. Yeah, weight saving, or do you want to look up, and have an open sunroof? A lot of people have different preferences. I think that something that you can customize yourself. But in terms of carbon fiber roof, yes, it does. It's available, and you can come standard on the vehicle.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think that wraps us up in terms of timing. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in live. Of course, we are seeing more questions come through, and of course, we are available at any point to answer those. We will of course reach out to anyone after the fact to make sure that all questions are answered. But Lucas, if there's, if somebody wanted to get in touch, the best way is obviously to contact, to email, call, or just reach out through any of the avenues.
During this time, it's a little bit different from the world has changed, and I think in general, please do call us and book an appointment before coming in. I think it's for our own safety and obviously for themselves as well, for our clients. It's very important that, that's why we're producing these apps where you can book your test drives online on your cell phone. Taking a picture of your driver's license and a credit card, you can go off yourself.
Seamless process.
Right, or delivering the car. So all this Polycare access things, it's creating a convenience so that we can keep each other safe. So please do book an appointment with your sales representative, including myself. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Lucas, so much for being here tonight with us. And thank you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate, yet again, you spending your evening with us. We very much look forward to inviting you to the next series. We'll, of course, keep what vehicle that is under wraps until a little later in the future. But again, thank you, and have a great night and stay safe.
Thank you, and good night.